Good afternoon. It is wonderful to be with you today. So much more of each of you is here than you think. There is so much more to you than you think there is. And all of you is always present. All of what you are is always available to you. And all of what you are is always functioning. There isn't any aspect of each of you that is not functioning. So what does that mean? It means you can't possibly be working toward something that doesn't exist yet. It means that you can't possibly be in a process of improvement. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You are neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. You're at that point and must understand yourself therefrom. In other words, you must begin to conceive of the possibility that what you thought you would ultimately be, you already are at this moment. Waking up is not a process of achieving the ultimate. Waking up is to become aware of what already is, fully. So what does that mean? That means that all the flaws you think you have, all of the shortcomings you think you have, aren't holding you back at all. Because they aren't true. They aren't a forever established fact. And therefore it is unnecessary for you to fix the flaws before you can wake up. All this wonderful work that you thought you had in front of you that would prepare you for awakening and move you into the experience of awakening is something that I am encouraging you today to stop doing. Stop engaging in effort and work to improve yourself, to get rid of your flaws so you might become worthy of awakening. I said that more of each of you is present than you think you brought with you. And I can see it. You are fully here. The wholeness of you, the unlimited presence of God, is what is confronting me here, called all of you, right now. Now you get preoccupied with your flaws, and you get preoccupied with everyone else's flaws. and you keep yourself bottled up and in a turmoil, either trying to forgive others for their flaws, or somehow getting over feeling guilty because you aren't seeing perfection in them, and therefore you are imperfect, and you've got to forgive yourself for being imperfect. And there you are, right back in the work of becoming enlightened, of arriving at a point where you will be worthy of waking up. This is all bullshit. I will tell you that as long as you work hard at spiritualizing yourself, your attention isn't going to be available to notice that you're already all here. Each one of you is already wholly present. That each one of you is already the full presence of God in action. So, rather than trying to find all the skeletons in your closets, I ask you to start giving your attention to yourself in every moment with a curiosity to experience God being the very presence of you. And I encourage you, when you look at your neighbor or you look out the window, that you be curious to see the presence of God there. And don't judge your friend or your neighbor or your mate according to their behavior. Be more curious than ready to pass judgment. Be more curious to see the wholeness that has to be right in your face. Be willing to abandon the definitions you have created for everything, including yourself. Because if your definition of yourself isn't the definition God has given of Himself right where you are, then your definitions will blind you to it and blind you to the experience that you are divine right this moment. Oh, but I'm just a woman, or I'm just a man, and I've lived a certain number of years, and I've had a certain experiences, and all of these things have helped to form me. No. They may have helped you form an opinion and a definition of yourself. But that isn't what you are. Right now, this room is full of the light of you. Right now, God is fully glorified right here. Well, I've heard you say this before, and I've tried to be curious, but I'm still seeing the same old world. Well, persist. All it means is that you are still favoring your personal definitions of everything, and you are still not bringing curiosity fully into play. Curiosity that is open to the unexpected. Fully open to the unexpected. Scary business, that. At least that's what your egos suggest. Fully open to the unexpected. And as I've said before, that means fully open to God knows what. But those are good words. Fully open to God knows what. You want the experience of what God knows because that's your birthright, to be experiencing as your conscious experience of being. You know, there are Bible-thumping Christians who pound on it and tell you exactly how things are, aren't there? Now, these ones that are so sure of exactly how it is, can you see that they are frozen, as it were? Their mind is turned to concrete because they have concrete knowledge of how things are. And when you have concrete knowledge of how things are, how on earth can you be fully open to the unexpected? You see what I'm saying? If you're embracing and embodying and expressing curiosity, you're not being curious about things you already know about, are you? That wouldn't be curiosity. Curiosity is a matter of being open to the unknown, to what you don't know yet. And what I want you to be very clear about is that when you think you know for sure what something is or how something is or the way things really are, when you know it for certain, you've turned into concrete. Because you've got to get beyond what you know for certain. You have to be less dense so that something can permeate into your awareness that you're not aware of already. And if you're not awake right now, if you aren't having the experience of God being conscious of himself, herself, totally, then whatever you think you know right now isn't the answer. Whatever you think you're absolutely sure of right now is not the answer. Now, it isn't, of course, just Christians who are Bible thumping. There are many groups who are thumping their book, their teaching, their philosophy. And to the degree that they are thumping that book and claiming to be able to decisively say what it means and what it ought to mean to you, or that you can find all the meaning there is to everything in that book, they are making of that book an idol. Now, Paul and I, a number of years ago, joked about putting together a cookbook entitled Loaves and Fishes, Recipes for Bread and Fish. Let me ask you something. If you had a cookbook in your hand and you had the author in the same room with you, which would you give your attention to? The author. Yes. Okay. Now, I'm going to be very specific here. For those of you who are students of the course, A Course in Miracles. If you have A Course in Miracles in front of you, and you also have the author available to you, which one will you give your preference to? Okay. And so today, I'm here with you in this way, but at every moment, I'm with you within you. Just like I was with Helen Schuckman. And what I don't want anyone to forget is that the example that the existence of the Course sets for you is that if Helen could hear me, you can hear me. And what I said to Helen is not as important as the fact that I said it to her and I can say it to you directly. And if you will remember this and give preference where it ought to be given, you will not end up making an idol out of the Course or an idol out of the words of the Course. That does not mean don't value it. It is very valuable, but the point of the Course is to lead you to the point of going through your day, not making any decisions by yourselves, but to be making them with me or with the Holy Spirit. To be consciously joined with a friend who is with you on behalf of your waking up, so that you stop practicing independence and you break the isolation, the separation that causes you to feel as though your definitions have more value than reality itself. There are those who try to find the flawlessness of the Course, how absolutely consistent it is from beginning to end. Why? Because that will prove that it is a divine document. Well, what if it is absolutely a divine document? It's still just a book until you open it up and you begin to do the lessons. You begin to put into practice what's there. And ultimately what's there is the direction to abandon your isolation and join with the Holy Spirit or me, and not making any decisions by yourself. Well, what does that mean? That means beginning to be open to the unexpected. But there's a problem. And the problem is that if you can convince yourself that you have a divine document that's absolutely flawless, then you can depend on it. And you won't ever have to join or question or wonder about what's in that book. You won't have to be conscious. I mean by conscious, alert, sensitive to, and ready to experience a changed consciousness of being. The Course doesn't have to be flawless in order for you to get the idea that you're not here to do anything by yourself. You're not here to be self-sufficient. You're not here to be self-made. You're not here to improve yourself to become worthy of God's love. You are here at this very moment as the fully present presence of God, whose function it is to glorify God by virtue of not valuing your own definitions and opinions more than asking God, what does this mean? What does that mean? Where you don't value your definitions and opinions more than your acquired knowledge of what is true. Truth is a revelation. Truth is always revealed in the withinness of your consciousness as your transformed consciousness of things. And you won't find revelation in the Course, you won't find revelation in the Bible, you won't find revelation in a neighbor or anything. Revelation is found in the withinness of your mind and occurs in your mind when you have curiosity. And again, what you're having curiosity about is the already fully realized presence of God, presence of creation that is what constitutes conscious being. Constitutes being conscious, which all of you are being right now. It is so easy to think in a linear fashion. For those of you who have seen the movie Artificial Intelligence, you know that in the story, man creates robots and then proceeds to fade out of existence. Man fades out of existence and robots remain. And this happens over a period of 2,000 years. And you walk out of the theater and that seems like certainly a possible potential. After all, the dinosaurs are extinct. There are creatures that have shown up and disappeared, and man could too. And then there can be robots. And it doesn't occur to anybody to see how easily you slip into thinking in a way that doesn't represent the truth. Mankind isn't a physical computer. that can create, I mean by that a flesh computer that can create metal computers, and the flesh computers can die out, and the metal computers can continue, and that's the end of man. Because the consciousness that you are experiencing being, that each of you is experiencing being, is itself the presence of God. And the only movement you can make is a movement into greater and greater clarity of what you are as consciousness or mind or the presence of God that is divine. So, although you can be drawn into a concept that mankind is a species that can go out of existence, it's total fantasy, because mind is that within which all there is occurring. World, universe, creation. It is as though there is another timeline, not a good choice of words, that could have been followed in that picture. Maybe the inventors of the robots that were in the latter part of the picture, maybe instead of becoming extinct, they are now awake. And maybe their tendency to overlook their capacity to love and let it fade out of the picture so that they had to embody it in a computer, an artificial intelligence, maybe that was once again re-embraced. Obviously, it would be inevitable that it would be re-embraced because they couldn't possibly wake up without re-embracing their function as love. So, remember that you're not on a timeline through history, and you're not on a timeline of improving your soul and spiritualizing yourself. You are the ultimate right now, and what you ultimately and wholly are is totally available to you to experience consciously right now. It's just that you need to bring your attention to the threshold of experiencing it. And stop saying it's got to be off in the distance, off in the future. Someone is very offended, very bothered by the fact that I shared that Hitler is fully awake. The thought is that in light of the heinousness of his crimes, he can't possibly have paid for his crimes sufficiently yet. And therefore it's totally unreasonable for him to be awake. But I must tell you that if you hold that concept about him, you're going to hold the concept about yourself. And you're going to say, I haven't refined myself enough to deserve to have awakened yet. And the marvelousness of the knowledge that Hitler is awake is the fact that you, who have done nothing nearly as severe as he is judged to have done, should be awake even faster, can be awake. And what I'm trying to convey to you is, stop putting off your awakening, because you're not going to become something more than you already are. All you're going to do is to become more conscious of what you already are.